morning and welcome to another edition of Awaken the World. My name is Garen and we're doing an unscheduled live Facebook production today called Love Redone. And this is one of these necessary ones that we just felt we needed to readdress. Hello Janet, hello Cindy, nice to see you both this morning. So this morning we're going to be talking more on the subject of love. And you know, this is a dubious subject at best. So it's afternoon where Cindy is. Yeah, it's afternoon where we are too. So first of all, thank you very much for participating and much love to you all. Namaste. Nice to see you all here. Looking forward to the YouTube ones where we can actually integrate the chat on screen. That'll be a little more fun. So before we get into the discussion on love, I want to first talk a little bit about defining again emotions versus feelings, just so we're all clear about it, okay? Love, in its truest, most honest, real sense, is an emotion, not a feeling. What we experience and call love is mostly feeling and not emotion. And we have to define the difference, and we have to be sure that everyone's clear. And so we're going to take the time to delineate the difference between the two, okay? And if you haven't seen the video on emotions versus feelings, it's a good one to take a look at. In essence, feelings are responses from our body's energy system in response to what we're thinking about. And it is actually a built-in alarm system for you. When you are thinking thoughts that are in line with universal truth, in line with harmony with your higher self, in line with oneness and wholeness, your being, your body's energy field, the temple's energy field, will resonate positive feelings. You'll feel good. You'll feel happy. You'll feel uplifted. You'll feel energized. When you think thoughts that are not in line with cosmic truth, when you tell yourself negative thoughts, which we've talked about many times about the lies that they actually are, that every negative thought you would tell yourself is actually a lie. If you look at it closely. Anytime we have these negative thoughts going on, we cause the body to act dissonantly. That energy field becomes dissonant. There's a dissonant vibration within it, and that causes us to feel bad. We feel tired, we feel sad, we feel depressed, we feel anxious, whatever the case may be. Those are all a product of our thoughts. Now, love is a tricky one, because true love, what the Greeks would call, I believe, agape, okay, divine love, is the truth of our being. That falls into the land of emotion. And emotion is what wells up within us. And it can never be negative, and it's never based on thought. Thoughts may come after, but the emotions well up. They start in the core of our being and literally well up into us. Love is not that feeling based on the thoughts, although we're pretty much convinced it is in many cases. And when it came to the Greeks, and we're going to try this out for the first time, so this may block my head out of the picture, not so bad of a deal. But we're going to talk about the various types of love in the way that the Greeks saw love. The Greeks defined love in 7 ways. The first was storge, and that was the natural affection that siblings, uncles, aunts, family members normally have. And I say normally because it doesn't seem to be very normal anymore. Okay, but that's what they defined as one type of love. Another type of love was known as philia, and that was the love that you have for close friends. You have filial love for your close friends, for those who you see as your most special people in your life. Then there is what is known as eros, and that was sexual desire. It was totally based on the more animal instinct, and it had both positive and negative connotations. Okay? Eros as a definition of love, and we're going to talk about the issue with how Greeks define this, okay, after the fact. But you could certainly have positive sexual desire. You can also have negative sexual desire. Agape, or divine love, as I mentioned prior, is the true love, the love that we are at the core of our being. And again, we're using a label. You know, to say I feel divine love for someone, you're not feeling divine love for someone. You're labeling a feeling. Ludus, playful love. That's the childlike love, the love a little child will express towards nearly anybody. It can be flirtatious in nature as well between adults. Then there's, and you know, I did have a woman in my life a long time ago who I had nothing to do with in any way romantically or relationship-wise, but we used to love to flirt with each other. And it never meant anything to us, but a lot of people on the outside were almost aghast at the flirting. But it was there was nothing beyond that. It was that kind of playful connection, right? Two people with the same sick sense of humor. Then, of course, there's pragma, the love of a long married couple. The love of a 70 years married or 50 years married couple that has seen all sorts of trials and tribulations and successes and failures, and there's a comfort between the two where words are no longer even necessary. Then there's philatia, which is, of course, the love of self. And this is the type of love that we engage in most often. And the real issue with the type of love that the Greeks and the way they define love is, with the exception of agape, none of the rest of them are actually love. They're not. They're what we would define as love based on our own egoic point of view. Okay? And Pema Chodron spoke about this in someone had posted a video. And, I'd actually been to a few of her seminars and talked with her before. And we have a very similar impression of love. But even the concept of you wanting someone else to be happy, the ego can grab that too. And this is where we have to be careful, okay? Agape, divine love, is the total open-handed, supportive love of the divine in all of us, which says no matter how you behave, no matter how you choose to act, no matter whether you choose to spend time with me or not spend time with me, or harm me or not harm me, I still see what you truly are, and I always love you. That would probably be about the closest we could come to a physical world definition of agape love. Anything less than that, we're fooling ourselves. It falls out of love and more into the ego's definition of love. And we're going to talk a little more about this with the next storyboard here. Rabbi David Wolpe says, too many women have told me, bruises visible on their faces, that the husbands who struck them love them. Since they see love as a feeling, the word hides the truth, which is that you do not love someone whom you repeatedly beat and abuse. You may have very strong feelings about them. You may even believe you cannot live without them. But you do not love them. This is a difficult one for people to accept. And, I expect to see some controversy come up over this because our ego tendency is to see love as a feeling, and love is not a feeling. Love has nothing to do with what you feel. Love has to do with how you act out that. Love is an action. Love is a state of being. It is something that arises out of us and causes us to, no matter what, wish for the other person's happiness and support that happiness in whatever way we can. Now, we're not to confuse that love with taking it on the chin and becoming the victim or the martyr in the situation. We must not assume or make the mistake that that is love. What we're doing in that case is we are using an egoic excuse and an egoic identity that we're clinging to of the martyr or of the victim, and then claiming the reason why we're clinging to is because we love someone else. And that's not the case. It's simply not the case. It appears to be on the outside, but it's not. And as Rabbi David Wolpe says here, the word love in the way many people use it is actually hiding the truth of things. You do not love someone you repeatedly beat and abuse. And that beating and abusing, physical is only one of the ways this happens. The beating can be emotional. The abuse can be spiritual, psychological, mental in nature. These types of abuses leave wounds and bruises below the surface. Ones that people try to bury a lot of times and try to hide. And I will relay a story to you. And I am not proud of this story, let's be perfectly clear, okay? But the one thing I am is a totally brutally open and honest, upfront person and transparent. So I have no issue sharing this with you. When I was a young man, a young soldier, I was about 21. I had just finished my first 5 years of service, so I guess I was just hitting 22. And I had re-upped for another 5 years, taken French citizenship as it was offered, and a new identity, and all the other things that come as part and parcel with the French Foreign Legion. And I had a good friend of mine who I actually set up with another good friend of mine. She was a really great person. I thought he was a really great person too. Well, as it turned out, his definition of love was that he owned her. And one time, I got a phone call and had to go visit her in the hospital. Well, that same night, I waited out in the back alley of the nightclub that he was at. And when he came out about 2:33 in the morning, because over in Europe, we don't really start partying until about midnight. And typically 3 to 5 a.m. is, just starting to wind down. And, balaclava on, dressed all in black, I broke both his knees. And I eventually let him know it was me. He had a pretty good idea, and it was a lot of years before we became close friends again. But at the end of the day, I certainly was not proud of my behavior at all. But this is what happens with people. You take someone who on the surface and in every way you've known them for years, they look perfectly fine, and then you put them with another person, and their egoic definition of love becomes twisted. There's something happening behind that at the ego level that has not been healed, that does not feel whole. And it reaches out, as Pema said in that video, and it clings. It wants to grab and it wants to control and it wants to hold. Why? To protect itself from what it fears to lose the most, what it perceives to fear to lose the most. And that's why it's so important, as Yoda said, let go of that which you fear to lose the most. Let it go. It is a must. There are a number of steps that we can go through to help us come to a better point in understanding what love really is, and seeing where we need to work on that. Because of ego, we all have this intense desire to be loved. We all have it. It's part of that collective ego and part of the ego individualization in ourselves. And it comes from the false concept that you are separate from that which created you, that which brought you into being, and that the love of that which brought you into being and that which you are created of and in is not seen, is not enough to the eyes of the ego, because it is not felt. And what does the ego do? The ego then goes outside of itself, looking for that subconscious deep memory of connectedness. It's almost the same as the first time you get seriously hurt. You kind of sit there and you go, wait a minute, I'm not Superman. I'm mortal. And the reason you do that is deep in the back of your subconsciousness. In the moments of you coming into this relative world through the womb of your mother or the test tube or whatever the case may be. In my case, again, it was an egg, a shell. Full size, right from birth, no diapers. It was great. No potty training needed. We as a being, we search for this love. We're always searching for that original feeling again. Never understanding that feeling is always present, that love is always present. It's actually all around us, all the time, in us, through us, is us. And there are steps. There are steps that can help take us back to that. The path to unconditional love is not meant to be a lonely path, but you need to walk it with people who reflect the love you see in yourself. Do not attempt to walk your path with, regardless of whether they call themselves family, friends, mentor, God himself. You know, if you see Buddha on the street, kill him, right? You understand that. You are going to look around at some point and realize that not everyone among your family and friends is in sync with your aspirations, with your conscious growth. And without rejecting them outright, because it won't be you who does the rejecting. As you grow in conscious awareness, you will find that they will reject you, not out of lack of love, but out of a lack of awareness, a lack of consciousness. You have the right to find people who understand the path you're walking and can sympathize and walk it with you and understand you. You have that right. Those people are more likely to appreciate you for who you are now and who you are trying to become. And you must make these choices for yourself. The very first step is, again, always make contact with your higher self. Take the time in meditation to reach your higher self. In that moment, you will be bathed in a love so complete, so beyond the description, beyond the world's best poet to even describe the perfection of it. And you will understand that that is the state of your being. Step 2, deal with the old wounds. Deal with them. How do we deal with old wounds? There isn't much you have to do. You just have to be willing to expose it and see it for what it is. Find the candle within. That's right, Cindy. Find that still place. Forgive your past. That which we do in lower conscious states is our responsibility, but not to be blamed. As I said, you don't beat the baby for spilling the milk. The baby doesn't know any better. The conscious state you have today, the conscious state of awareness you're in today, we don't even have to talk about spiritual awakening here. We're just talking about conscious evolution in the sleeping ego species. It's still evolving. An interesting point I want to bring up, we were by the health food store today. Janet said she got lost with the eggshell. I was hatched, Janet. I didn't actually come from here, right? I'm kind of one of those implant species. I look very human, sound human, but if you get the light just right and a few mirrors and say the right phrase, I'm definitely not human. Definitely. When we forgive our own past, when we let go of the idea that our state of consciousness then, that we should have somehow known better because of the way we feel today, you can let go of all that. You don't have to hold on to it. That's not your fault. No matter what anyone says, it's not a fault issue. And this can be the most healing part of the whole experience, because when you let go of your past and you realize that you only did what you did at the level of awareness and the level of vision that you had at the time, you can then also realize that everyone else around you who you thought was doing you so much harm and it was so personal, they were also only acting out of the level of conscious awareness that they had. Only acting within the limits of their vision, within the limits of their damaged ego. And every human being possesses a damaged ego, because the first damage, the primordial issue, is the false sense of separation. That sense that you are alone at any time. Jeanette came on. Hello, Jeanette. Accept the present. This is the next step in returning to that state of unconditional love with ourselves and with others. Accepting the present means accept where you are right here, right now. It doesn't mean you say, and my wife has been guilty of this a few times. Well, okay, if Jesus can do it, then I can do it. And yes, Christ was telling us indeed that we can do as he did, and we can do more and greater works than he. But it's not just an assumption. Okay, that must be true. I'm just going to hop to it. It can be like that, but most times it's not. Most time there's a space between the realization and you being ready to go spend a weekend with your family, for example, where you're trapped in the house with them. I can't remember who it was. It may have been Eckhart Tolle, but if you want to know how much awareness and how close you are to truly waking up, lock yourself in a house with your family, your entire family, for 1 week. If things are going great, awesome. That'd be fantastic. But chances are things will be a little rocky. Things will start to come out. Accepting the present means accepting your own perceived weaknesses, understanding them, not beating yourself up about them, and being okay with the being you are right now. You're on a path. There is no graduation point. There is no point you're going to make it and suddenly be happy. Happiness exists as a state of being for you right now, right in this moment. This is where happy is. It's not in a future event. The last and final step, and this is probably the hardest step. Okay, Cindy's got a good sense of humor. She says, I said there was no hell, and then locked up with family. Let me tell you, and I'm not beating up on family, okay? Let's just be clear. I know many beautiful, wonderful families where everyone works together and gets along, and it's fantastic. The family is nothing more than a micro example of our problems at the macro level. Because really, we're all family. All of us. We're all family. And the same problems we have at the macro level are the same problems we're experiencing at the micro level. And as I've said to, and Jeanette is right, happiness is a state of mind, okay? As I've said to my wife, Kelly, we wonder why we still go to war with each other as a species. But all you have to do is look at the family unit. The problems that develop anytime two people come together are the same problems that are magnified onto the world stage. That's why conscious awakening, coming back to unconditional love, that agape love, is the best thing we can do for ourselves and the entire species. Form relationships where you feel loved and appreciated. And as I said, this is a toughie for a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there suffering in relationships right now who may need to take a good look at their definitions of love. And let's be crystal clear. You will, one way or the other, come up with your own definition of love for yourself. The problem arises. Hello, Jennifer. How are you today? The problem arises when we fail to accept the other person's definition of love and rail against it. This is part of the issue. We are at our core loving beings. And the word loving, the best definition can only be found to me in this picture of two upraised hands with a smile, helping, holding up, supporting. Love is an action. Love is not a word. Love is not a feeling. Love is an expression into this relative universe. How do you love most openly, most honestly? By ceasing to see a loved and a beloved. Understand there's only one, and love it all as one, each and every one, even the ones who would do you harm. And when that comes to family, that's incredibly difficult. In some ways, I was blessed. Most of my family, well, as a matter of fact, all of my family was dead by the time I was 36. And I didn't think that was really that bad of a thing, considering a lot of the things I saw going on with other relationships. And it's really not about families, because we're all really one big family. It's about understanding our definition of love and continuing to evolve that definition and evolve our actions and the way we treat each other to demonstrate love. Because love undemonstrated is just words, just thoughts. Love demonstrated becomes a beautiful expression into the world that impacts others and lifts others up. And this is why we are here, and this is what I see everyone here present doing. And it's a wonderful thing. Much love and namaste to you all. We're going to return you to the other screen for a minute and let you enjoy a minute or two of Kelly's music again. I have some more I'm going to be recording later this week. And we will see you all tomorrow, hopefully, for the live help and live awaken session at 10 a.m. via YouTube and 1 o'clock. And yes, I will post tomorrow morning and make sure everyone has the links again. Namaste.